Christine Hayes, and I am the chat room assistant. Put your questions on chat unless there's a thing and Christine wants people to just speak out. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Annette. I really appreciate that and that introduction. Thank you to everyone for showing up. This class is going to be a little bit different from some of the other ones I've taught. If you've been to any of the other ones, as I wrote in the description, sometimes it seems like barbershoppers have their own peculiar language, but understanding some of the common terms can really help you improve your craft. So this class is going to take the mystery out of rehearsal and coaching sessions by explaining some common terms and concepts used in barbershop singing. I've selected 11 terms, and for each one I've created a multiple choice question, so this can be a little interactive. And as you figure out the right answer, you might discover that you know more than you think you know. I hope you do. But even when we know the basic meaning of a term or it's something we've heard a long time, that doesn't mean that there isn't more to know about it. So I'll follow up each multiple choice with a bit more explanation that focuses on how that term really relates to the craft of barbershop. Some of those explanations will take a couple of minutes, that's all. Others are a bit more complex. They may take more like 7 or 8 minutes, and they're going to require some props. So it's going to be quite varied. And then finally, if there's a term that's always befuddled you, and if there's time at the end, please put that term in the chat. If I don't know what it is, I'll pretend that I don't see it. If I do, then I'm happy to explain it. I'll give it a try. But one way or the other, maybe there'll be time at the end for some of your own questions. So I pulled together first a few terms that really have to do with vocal production. So I'm going to ask Kate to launch the first of the 11 polls. In fact, we're going to do two, one right after the other, the first two, Kate. So you'll run it up. You'll see what the word is. You'll have a multiple choice and just, weigh in on what you think. And then Kate will share the results with us. And then we'll do the second one. And then we'll talk about those terms. So take it away, Kate. Phonation is just another word for a country founded by Alexander Graham Bell, the act of producing vocal sound, whether speaking or singing, a telephone operator's job description, or a brand of evaporated milk. Oh my God, you guys are good. No, you guys are really good. So actually 100% of you got that one correct. So maybe that one was a little too easy. Let's try the second one, and then we'll talk about these two words. So share the results. Yep, that's it. We had 100% on number 2. Okay, so Kate, can you give us the second one as well? What does the term resonator refer to? A superhero able to break windows with a vibration and leap tall buildings in a single sound? Any of the cavities or parts of the vocal tract that help to reinforce and enrich the sound of the singing voice? A device for applying rosin to a violin bow, or none of the above?
Cute.
And you guys are good. You guys are really good. So you already have some sense of where these things are, right? Of what these terms are. And I want to talk a little bit more about each one of those and what it really has to do with singing barbershop, because we want this to have some, practical application. So phonation is a very fancy word just for sound. It just refers to the act of producing a vocal sound, whether that's speaking or singing. Now, sound is just vibration, but to produce vibration, I need 3 things. I need an actuator, I need a vibrator, and I need a resonator. Those are the 3 things I need. I need an actuator or activator that starts the whole process of vibration going. On a guitar, that's my finger. On a piano, that's the hammer that strikes the string. And then I need something to actually vibrate. Once it's been activated, it has to actually vibrate and move. That's called the vibrator. And on a guitar, that's the string. On a piano, that's the string that's been hit by the hammer. And then I need something to amplify or reinforce the sound, and that's called the resonator. So in a guitar, it's the body of the guitar, the box that the air vibrates in behind the string. And that's what gives it its characteristic sound. If you filled the guitar up with Jell-O, it would sound really different, right? So it's the space and the shape and the material of the resonator that gives the guitar the sound of a guitar. And in a piano, it's really the whole box of the piano. So if you think about your voice, go ahead and unmute yourselves and tell me what the actuator or activator is in a voice. What do you think the thing is that causes something to vibrate?
Air.
Air, breath, right, exactly.
Yes.
So air or breath causes vibration in the vibrator, which is?
Vocal cords.
Vocal cords.
Vocal cords are vibrating, right? And that vibrating air then resonates in the resonating chamber or the resonators. Except don't unmute yourself if you have a dog. So maybe we'll, if you have a lot of noise in your background, you might want to stay muted. And what is the resonator for us, for the human voice instrument?
Mouth.
The mask.
Mouth.
You know
No.
what? All of those things, all of the above, right? It's the throat, it's the mouth, and it's the cavities, the nasal cavities as well. Those are our resonators. So, and one of the things Kathleen Hansen likes to point out is that unlike other instruments, we have control over the shape of our resonating chamber, some of them at least. We can make, the guitar can't, that's a fixed shape, right? But we can make lots of subtle changes to our mouth and throat. We can't really do too much with the nasal cavities other than blow our nose, but we can make subtle changes to our throat and to our mouth to sort of change the resonating space. And we can do that in a way that will help make more room, reinforce the vibrations coming off the vocal cords as much as possible. And you can play with that. I mean, right now you can even do it. If you start to yawn, right? Think how much you've changed the shape inside. You will feel a stretch at the back of your throat. So that's opening things up more. You'll feel your soft palate lift. If somebody doesn't know what that is, they can put that in the chat later. And of course, we can also move our tongue around. There are resonating cavities in the nose, but we don't have a lot of control over those, as I said. But we do over the throat and the mouth and keeping our tongue out of the way. So the best way to sing with resonance, the best way to establish your resonator and to try to keep it there is to have your soft palate, the back part of the roof of your mouth, kind of medium high and relaxed, not forced up there with tension, but just relaxed as in a yawning feeling. And the throat is open and relaxed and expanded, but again, without tension, a little bit of a yawn space. And then the tongue is free of excess tension and kind of out of the way. Of course, we have to use it to articulate, but when it's resting, it should be on the lower gum ridge if possible. Tension tends to destroy resonance because it closes things up. It closes space. And that's why directors will tell you to try to relax and sing with a freely produced sound. They want you to learn to allow relaxation really everywhere, shoulders, neck, the base of your tongue, because tension anywhere will tend to create tension in that inner space as well and affect resonation. All right, so those are two terms now. Phonation, fancy sounding word just for producing sound, and resonators. Now, hopefully you can understand how they help us in our singing. So Kate, we can launch our third term. What are ping and ring? The secret pet names of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. Important elements of vocal production, brilliance and warmth. The better halves of pong and a ling, or ways to connect with someone far away, ping and ring. Now there might be more than one answer. Oh my gosh, no, you actually all have chosen. Oh, I see it coming in here.
I don't see it. It didn't come up.
The results haven't been shared yet. Now I don't know if they're all in yet. So
I didn't get the poll at all.
oh, you didn't. Oh. So not sure why that is. Looks like 46 people voted. So I'm
No, I know why, because I'm sharing an account with somebody else. That's okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So so Kate, yeah, okay. So it's nothing that Kate should do, right? So great. So she's sharing the results there, and you can see important elements of vocal production. They absolutely are. I think they are also secret pet names of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, but they refer to brilliance and warmth, if you will. So ping, a voice with ping, has a focused, bright, ringing sound. It's vibrant, it's buzzy, it's even brilliant. Those are all words that we try to use to describe sound. They're all kind of visual or tactile words, aren't they? But we're trying to use them to describe sound. Fuzzy is something we touch. Brilliant is something we see, but we're trying to use words of our other senses to describe sound. The sensation you have when you're singing with ping is felt in the mask of the face. The mask is just a term that refers to the area around the eyes. So when you sing with ping, you'll feel increased vibration, or you'll feel that the sound is coming from there. So we're going to try it right now. You might want to mute yourselves, or if you don't care, you don't have to, but everyone just sing an N sound, like with your tongue there, because that can really help you feel and place the sound forward. And then go to E. And hopefully you can feel it there. As opposed to, for a moment, do your best opera singer interpretation and sing, ooh, ooh. You'll feel that it's not in the mask of your face. You'll feel, ooh, you'll feel it's very far back. So when we want more ping in our voice, we try to sing more towards the forward or in the mask of the face. And the goal in barbershop is to allow some ping always in every tone that you sing, even in your low notes if possible. And even when you're singing something soft and tender and gentle, having some ping will keep it from being too weak and will keep it alive with emotion. So when someone tells you to sing with more ping, that's what they're asking for. And you want to align your ping with other people's ping so that you get blend as well. Ring, on the other hand, refers to the resonance or the warmth or the fullness of a voice, and that's created by the shape of the tone, and that depends on the shape of the vowel, and that depends on the shape of the resonators, right? So ring is all about that resonating space that we just talked about. And we can modify the ring and the resonance of our tone by subtly modifying our resonating space, the throat and the mouth. And the goal is to let the tone expand and be full and strong, but without tension. And this really brings us to another term that I didn't really include, but we should talk about, and that is that when all of your sound vibrations are fully resonant, have ping and ring, and they line up the right way with other singers, or lock, the vibrations lock with the vibrations being produced by other singers, and the resonance is right, then the entire chord will ring, which just means that the sound waves will reinforce each other. And that will give us the impression that the sound has been amplified when in fact it really hasn't. No one has sung any louder, but because the sound waves line up, they reinforce one another and make them stronger, and we perceive that as volume. It's really expanded sound. So you'll hear that expression too. We want expanded sound. How do you achieve that? With ring, right? So no one's singing any louder when there's expanded sound, but they're singing with more resonance. So when your director or a coach wants expanded sound, they don't want you to sing harder or to be belting. They want you to sing smarter with more ping and more ring, more brilliance and more resonance. That makes it easier to lock with the other voices. And when the chord all locks, it will ring as the sound waves reinforce one another, creating additional vibrations that we hear as more sound, right? So I'm going to launch one more term, and then before we get out of sort of vocal production into a couple of technical terms, I'll pause, okay? So here's another term, because you can sing with perfect accuracy and even resonant blend, but you won't achieve the ideal barbershop sound unless all the parts are correctly balanced, and that's where this term comes in. So in barbershop, what is the cone? A delivery system for a frozen dessert, a glass device that directors lower over the head of a singer who should be silent, a way to visualize the proper balance of notes in a chord, or the head shape of aliens purporting to be from France. Okay, this one was a little tougher, I know. Wow, we get a lot of voters. Well, with 65 votes in, it's pretty consistent. Oh my gosh, we have 90 people now. Wow, I didn't realize. Okay, so 2/3 of you have already chosen the right answer, which is a way to visualize the proper balance of notes in a chord. And it distinguishes barbershop music from other kinds of music. So barbershop music is designed to be sung with a cone-shaped balance that looks like this. So can everyone now see my PowerPoint? I hope that that's true.
Yes, we can.
Good, thank you. And let me, okay. Yep, so it's supposed to be sung in a shape that looks like this. and a cone shape. And that means that the lower you are in the chord, the stronger the note must be. And the higher you are in the chord, the lighter the note must be. Sometimes that means volume, sometimes it means more full resonance. And why is that the case? Well, the human ear tends to hear higher pitches of the human voice more easily than it hears lower ones. And so to properly balance our music, we have to compensate for that. And so the cone-shaped balance of parts means that the sound has to be dominated by this strong bassy resonance. And then you have a clearly perceptible melody that's usually sung by the leads. And then the harmony parts, the other harmony parts are braided around and through that lead bass unit. And other types of music don't take this shape. Other types of music might be a cylinder, or maybe even a slightly inverted, like an inverted cone, an upside down cone where the soprano has the melody and so they're dominant and the other parts are lighter underneath. They have a different shape. This is the shape for our music to affect the best, to achieve the best kind of lock and ring and balance. Now, cone isn't just a noun, a thing. It's also a verb, an action, to cone. And to cone means to adjust your volume to balance the chord properly. So coning happens relative to other parts. So if the leads are here, they're singing above the tenor, they're going to need to sing more lightly, and the tenors are going to need to fill out their sound. But coning also happens within a part. So in the space here, coning also happens. In the space here, coning also happens. Otherwise, my shape would look like a wedding cake with tears, right? But it doesn't look like a wedding cake with tears. It's a cone. And that means that within your part, you also need to cone. As you sing higher within your part, you need to sing slightly more lightly than when you're singing lower within your own range, where you will sing a little more strongly and a little more broadly. So coning happens relative to other parts and happens within a part as well. So for baritones, that means that they'll need to sing like the part that their note is closest to at any given moment. The farther they are from the lead, right down here, they will need to have more of the strength and fullness of a bass. But as they sing closer to the lead or go above the lead, they're going to need to sing lighter and even more lightly than the lead if they're above them. All right, we should just call them baritones, I think. Now, before I go into, I'm going to do a couple now those were all focused on kind of vocal production and balance. So before we leave that, if there are a couple of questions to clarify anything, we can do that, because I'm going to then go on to a couple of more technical terms.
Feel free to unmute everybody. But I must tell you that Laura Russell thinks you're very funny, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
And so do I. We love little injections of humor here. Thank you.
Oh, well, I thought it was very, very serious. I'm sort of surprised you took it that way, but.
I have a comment or a thought.
Yep.
So what you're explaining about coning, like within your part, right? Like as you go higher, you're going to soften, or that to me is like very technical. So, but if you're singing the line musically, I don't know. How do you balance? Like, you don't want to always you'd be in your head thinking, oh, I got to soften here.
You will be in your head thinking that. And of course, there's always dynamics, right? Sometimes the dynamic plan calls for you to be singing fully. So it's always sort of relative. and it's not a question of volume as much as lightness, although sometimes they do end up being sort of the same thing. But a lot of times it's a question of sorting out the priority. If I'm sort of singing, somewhere, I don't want to go somewhere. That's not musical either. The human ear hears the higher sounds more easily. So if I remember that, I know that I just don't have to, I can just touch that more lightly. And I'm treating those two notes very differently. Somewhere, I feel in myself that I'm treating them differently. So it is true in general that when we're musical, we're sensitive to that already, but you have to weigh that against, but now wait, where am I within the chord? And then that might cause you to have to adjust it and think a little bit less musically and melodically and think about that chord right there needs this from me, right? So these things all have to kind of get thought about and balanced against one another. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's.
There aren't any more questions, Chris.
Oh.
You can continue.
Oh, okay. All right, you know what, I'll press on for 2. Okay, these are the technical ones, because I'm doing a sandwich here. I did sort of the more fun ones, now a couple technical ones, and then we'll have some fun ones at the end. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to launch this next one with 2 terms. What's the difference between a chromatic scale and a diatonic scale? One is a weighing device for rainbows, the other is a weighing device for dieters. One is a colorful ladder, the other is a non-fattening alternative to a gin and tonic scale. Who cares? And 4, one has all 12 pitches of the scale separated by half steps. One has 7 pitches of the scale separated by a mix of 5 whole steps and 2 half steps. And the votes are pouring in. I have never seen greater unity and blend among a group of barbershoppers than on these polls. It's amazing, all united.
Mhm.
So yes, everyone managed to figure out that it is, in fact, number 4. And I want to unpack that because that's kind of a, okay, so what? What does it mean to have a scale with 12 pitches all separated by half steps, or a scale with 7 pitches? So I want to unpack it a little bit. A scale, first of all, is just a series of notes that ascends or descends like a ladder. And every songwriter chooses a scale for the song that she's going to write her song in, which just means her song is going to use the notes of a particular scale. If she chooses to write her song in the scale or the key of C major, she's going to write her song using the notes of C major, which are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. No sharps, no flats. It's the only key, in fact, that has, only major key that has no sharps and no flats. Now, there are lots of different types of scales in music. The one that we use the most is the 7 notes of the diatonic scale. There's the one that we use the most has these 7 notes and then arrives back at the starting note. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But some scales have 5 notes. They make for really funky kind of music. Some scales are happy, some scales are sad. But there's one scale that has all 12 of the pitches of Western music, and that is the chromatic scale, which I've represented right here. So you see, I start with C and I end with C, and in between are 12 notes. And these 12 notes are arranged in ascending order, made up entirely of half steps. Each note is a half step above the previous note. If you were to do this on a piano, you would hit every single key: white, black, white, black, white, white, black, white, black, white, black, white, white, black, etc. Every single key, because the keys on the piano, every single one of them is a half step away from the next one. Whether it's white or black doesn't matter. Whatever it's next to is a half a step away. So when I play a chromatic scale on the piano, it means I start on one note and I hit every single note until the next one, and there will be 12. They're all a half step apart. So in barbershop, many of our warm-up exercises repeat. We repeat the same exercise over and over, but we ascend or we descend chromatically, which simply means by half steps. Me, me, my, mo, moo, me, me, my, mo, moo, me, me, my, mo, moo, right? We do that all the time. So that's a chromatic exercise that helps you sing every single note that exists, right? Because you're going up half step by half step. But in contrast to a chromatic scale is a diatonic scale. And a diatonic scale is the do, re, mi scale. It has 7 pitches, 1 on each letter name. It's got to have an A, a B, a C, a D, an E, an F, and a G. Can't have 2 A's and no B. It's got to have 1 on every pitch letter name, A through G, in order. And now the difference, though, is that of these 7 notes, they aren't all a half space apart, right? Because I only have 7 of them. So they are spaced differently. The pattern of the diatonic scale that we all know, the major scale, is a whole step. So from the first note to the second note is a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That is the diatonic scale. 5 whole steps, 2 half steps, but arranged in this order: whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So to play the diatonic scale starting on C on the piano, you would simply play all the white keys. Look, if you can see this picture here. So C, D, E. So whole step, half step, whole step, half step. And that's the diatonic scale. The bottom line is, don't be freaked out if someone says, sing a diatonic scale on this note, or these are all the notes of the diatonic scale, or that note is not in the diatonic scale for this song. They just mean the 7-step do, re, mi scale. That is the scale that's being used, or the key that's being used in the song. And if they say that something is chromatic, they just mean it's moving by half steps. Basses, you've got a chromatic there. You just go up by a half. That's all it means. And while we're on the subject of scales, we're going to talk about a term that you hear quite a bit, and this is our second technical term. So we'll launch the poll for this term, and it is the circle of fifths. So let's see what, Kate, if you can launch that poll. Great. So what is the circle of fifths? A way of arranging scales according to how closely related they are, a drinking game where you stand when you don't finish in the top 4, a club formed by people who refuse to incriminate themselves. You guys are fast. You don't even have to think about it. Look at this, 58 voted, 64, 65. Oh my God, yes, smart group. All right, let's end the poll and we will publish those results. And yes, it is a way of arranging scales according to how closely related they are. Now, I have a whole class on a 50-minute class on the circle of fifths and why it's important to barbershop music. And I obviously cannot do that now, but I thought I could just say a couple of things to make it a little bit less mysterious for you. And so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Whoops, that's not my PowerPoint. Stop share. Let me see what happened to my PowerPoint. Everything was flawless till then, right? Okay, good. So we'll go back to our PowerPoint. All right. This is the C scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. And you'll remember that we talked about the fact that it followed a certain pattern of notes. To make do, re, mi, I have to hit a whole, a half, a whole, and a half. Now, the scale or the key then that uses the 7 pitch notes as they are without any need to sharpen or flatten them to make it sound like do, re, mi is the key of C. But all other scales to make that pattern, the do, re, mi pattern of whole, half, whole, half, they're going to have to flatten or sharpen one or more of the pitches. The scale that has to use 1 sharp is the scale that starts on G, and I'll show you why. Here's a G. So if I go whole step, half step, whole step, I need one more whole step, sorry, half step. I was ahead of myself. I had to make a whole step there by using an F sharp. So that means the key of G, which is at the top here, to follow that pattern of whole, half, whole, half, it has to use an F sharp. In every other way, though, it's exactly the same as G, as the key of C. The C scale and the G scale, they use all the same notes exactly, except for one. G happens to throw in an F sharp. The scale that has to use 1 flat, well, that's the scale of F. Starting here, it has a whole step, but then I need a half step, so I have to use a B flat. Then I need a whole step, and a half step. I had to use 1 flat. So the key of F uses the same notes as the key of C, except it has to use a B flat if it's going to make that do, re, mi pattern that we want. So the key of G and the key of F are really closely related to C. You are closely related to the people that you share most of your genes with. If you share fewer genes with them, you're less closely related to them. Scales are the same way. We say scales are closely related when they share most of the same notes. So the 2 keys the most closely related to C are the key of G. It has all the same notes except for 1, F sharp, and the key of F, or the scale of F. It has all the same notes as C except for a B flat. And so we've come up with something we call the circle of fifths, which is a way of arranging keys that shows us how closely related they are. At the top, we put C because C has no sharps, no flats at all. And so you can see here, there's no sharps or flats to indicate that this is C. Right next to it over here, we're going to put the key of G because it shares all the same notes except it has one sharp. And on this side, we're going to put the key of F because it has all the same notes except for one flat. And then as the next step out on the circle, we're going to put the scale or the key that is the next most similar. If G had 6 of the 7 notes in C, the key of D has 5 of the 7 notes in C, so it's the next most closely related. It has 2 sharps. And over here, the key of B flat has 2 flats. And so we continue around as things get less and less similar to the key of C. I'll just point out one thing, and that is if you count the distance between C and G, C, D, E, F, G, it's 5 steps away from G to D. G, A, B, D, G, A, B, C, D, whatever, D. It's 5 steps. Same if I count down from C, C, B, A, G, F, that's 5 steps down. 5 steps down from F is B flat. In other words, keys are most closely related to the key that's a perfect fifth up or a perfect fifth down. And that's why we call it the circle of fifths. Scales closely related to one another. It shows us which scales are closely related because they share most of the same keys, and they will always be a perfect fifth apart. To find out why that's important for barbershop harmony, you really need to take the class that I teach about this, but I'll say this. In barbershop harmony, we love to use a special 4-part chord. It's called the barbershop 7th. And to create that chord, I have to either erase a sharp sometimes, or I have to add a flat. And so if I'm singing a chord in a particular scale, and then I sing that barbershop 7th where I erase a sharp, or I sing that barbershop 7th where I add a flat, I create tension because I erase a sharp and I make my listener feel like I'm moving into a different scale or key, one that has one less sharp. Or I've added a flat, and so I create tension. My listener thinks I'm moving into a scale or key that has one more flat note. And that's what gives our music its emotional tension and release that we experience is so exciting in our music. Again, a lot more detail in a bigger class about how that happens, but this is why people care about the circle of fifths. It's so important to our harmony and the special chord that we use so much to move us from one scale into another scale and then into the next scale. And that creates excitement in our music. So those are my 2 technical ones. They're the longest ones. The next 4 are shorter. Does anyone have any quick questions on those before we do the last few?
Feel free to unmute everyone. Betsy says it's an excellent graphic, and I agree. It's beautifully
Good.
colored and it's fun to see. It explains it perfectly.
Good. I'd like to say I created it myself. I so totally did not.
We steal from the best.
That's right. Well, if there are,
I guess we're ready to go on.
okay, so let's go on. And here again, Kate, we're going to run 2 right after one each other because they're related. So number 7 and number 8. Okay, what is a target vowel? The vowel O, because it looks like a bullseye. A vowel available at target. E, the sound you make when there is a sale at target, or the vowel that on any given note, all singers must sing. Okay, like I didn't even get through reading them all and you were voting. I think that's very unfair. I think we have a majority. We can probably close up. Oh, somebody went for E. That's all right. It's always important to have somebody to break with the flock because it always tells you something interesting. So the vowel that on any given note, all singers must target to sing. Yes, that's what it is. Let's hold that thought and go to number 8, and then we'll talk about both of them together. What are diphthongs? A 50s doo-wop group, the diphthongs. A combination of 2 vowel sounds. What happens when you walk into a pool up to your waist? Or a medium-sized marine mammal, or wait, that's a dugong, sorry. I think the same person voted for the 50s doo-wop group. Okay, yes, it looks like the votes are in. A combination of two vowel sounds. Yes and no, actually, we're gonna see. It's a little more complicated than that. That is a good definition, but we're gonna make it a little more complicated. So target vowel, yeah. So the target vowel is the vowel that on any given note, all singers should be targeting to sing. Every sung note that you sing has a vowel that you aim at when you sing it. And to create the greatest blend of voices and pitches, which is important for that lock and ring and that expanded sound that we talked about before, everyone in the group needs to match the same target vowel. Now, some quartets and choruses find that it's easiest to choose the target vowel from a list of sort of common or pure vowels. And so you have different lists. Here is one I took from Brian Barford, but I've been in many courses that have used this myself. We sit late, but some wouldn't include late, bed, cat, far. These are target vowels that are very commonly used. This isn't completely set in stone. Here's another list that shows 10 pure vowels. It doesn't include, for example, late, which was on the other list, because you can think of late as not being a pure vowel. But this is a list of pure vowels, and they're ranked in order of the natural focus from the front to the back. And check it out for yourself. If you're muted, go ahead and try it out. If you sing mean, where is that? That should be in the mask. And then as you go through them, mean bid, and you'll hear them changing, right? And moving from sort of the front to the back. And when these 10 are sung alone or in certain combinations, we can produce all of the vowel and diphthong sounds in the English language. Now, there are other languages that have other sounds we don't have, but these are the ones we need. And that brings us then to diphthongs. A diphthong often is described as a combination of two vowels. That's not a bad definition. Some vowels are pure vowels, meaning that they have the same quality through their whole duration, like the E in we. It just doesn't change. Or the I in sit, it just doesn't change. But other vowels change as you move through them. They change in their duration, like the vowel in boy, right? Boy, it changes. Or the vowel in my, or the vowel in beautiful, beautiful. These changeable vowels are called diphthongs. They appear to have two sounds, or maybe even triphthongs. Some of them have three vowel sounds. The word diphthong implies that there are two separate vowels, that you say one and then you say the other. But actually, it's probably more accurate to say that they are the starting point and the ending point of a little vowel journey. And we actually sing through a spectrum of vowel sounds as we move from the one to the other. So I think it's a little better to think of diphthongs, as I've written it here in this definition, two vowels that serve as a point of departure and the point of destination. And this is an idea that I'm taking from Steve Jameson. So if you were to say the word, and mute yourselves and say the word hi, H-I-G-H, very, very slowly. You're going to do it like this. Hi. And notice how you continually adjusted the vowels, starting off with maybe I. It wasn't just and E. You passed through a bunch of different things to get to that E, right? So it's a little more complicated. It's really the starting point and the destination point of a little vowel journey. Think about boy. Do the same thing with boy. Very, very slowly. Boy. Right? There's a spectrum of vowels that you pass through before you get to that final vowel. And the way we've written it here, there are question marks to show you that some of those vowels are just not even really vowels in our language, or certainly not target vowels that we ever say on purpose. They might be vowels in another language. That adds a challenge to matching vowels with people who speak a foreign language, and that's something that we should be sensitive to. So I just want to also say here that the target vowel isn't always the first one. In these, they were hi and boy, but there doesn't have to be. Think about cute. Try that one again for yourself. Cute, right? But I want to get to the target, which is the ooh. So I would pass through the first ones as quickly as I could. Cute, cute, cute. So here are some rules about target vowels. If possible, use only the 12 vowels. And be sure to identify the correct target vowel for each syllable in a song. In order to preserve the meter, you want the target vowel to be sung on the downbeat of the beat and held without turning as long as possible. Okay.
We have some comments.
Good. And then we have just our three last are in a group as well. So our last three.
Earlier, Kathy Saunders said, it sounds like Professor Higgins. And then Judy W. said, the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat
Absolutely.
Thompson mentioned that in the South, words generally have 3 diphthongs.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because in the South, things that we say with a diphthong, they say as a monophthong. So we say hi, but they'll say how high, right? And then things that we say as a diphthong, they'll flatten out as a single syllable, like or they'll no the opposite. Things that we say as a monophthong, so they'll say oh gosh, I used to have a great example of a whole sentence where you can hear them making a diphthong out of something that we don't. Like we or something, you know, they will turn as a diphthong. So these are dialectical differences, and people really need to make decisions and identify target vowels.
I also have a compliment on the circle of fifths from Ann McAlexander. It's the best explanation I've heard as far as explaining it to people who may or may not read music. Nice.
Oh, great. I'm so glad. It's a tough one. I hope it whetted people's appetite to come and learn why our barbershop chord takes advantage of it.
And Sue Martin said, so the question is, how do you sing it when a target vowel is different?
How do you sing what? I'm sorry?
How do you sing it, comma, when a target vowel is different? Sue Martin, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, when a target vowel is different in different parts of the country.
That's exactly. And so that's where you need feedback from outside. I've been in the situation myself, and perhaps you have too, where people will say, sing this target vowel. And I sing that target vowel. I'm doing exactly what they tell me to do. And they're like, no, you're really not. You have to actually have that outside ear. We hear things differently. We think we're saying things. Recording yourself and listening. I just made a recording the other day, thought I was being really good at my vowels. And when I listened to it, I realized that every time I said the word brand, I was saying brand. I was spreading really wide instead of brand. Recording and listening back, because what we hear on the inside is not always what's being produced out there. So this is it's teamwork. This is not something you necessarily can do on your own. You have to listen and hear and get feedback, record yourself, listen, and as a group, you come to sing alike and together. Right.
And Hillary from the UK says, my daughter used to say her brother Guy's name using the whole ranges of sound en route.
Yeah.
Amy Fagan says, don't forget chair and four in New England.
Chair.
And park.
Forward.
Forward.
Yes. Forward. Yeah.
And Hillary, when she did the long guy when she was annoyed with
him. Great.
Park your car in the Harvard Yard.
Exactly. Yes. Right. So yeah, these things are all very different, and it's hard to create the blend we need to get the lock we need to get the ring we want without talking about some of these things.
And at this point, I'll tell you we have 10 minutes left.
Great. So there's 3 last terms, and all of them have to do with musical elements or embellishments that are characteristic of the barbershop style. So that's what brings these together. So can we launch number 9? So what is a swipe? An embellishment involving 2 or more chords sung on a single word or syllable, the way to find love on Tinder, a swing and a miss, or what you do with a credit card. Ooh. There you go. Look at all these people with their barbershop knowledge.
I just love the other options on all of these. They're just wonderful.
Yes,
I had-
they are.
I had fun thinking them up, Ed. All right, so if you could share that with us, you can see that everybody did very well on that. Yeah, it is an embellishment involving 2 or more chords that are sung in a single word or a single syllable. And this is really the hallmark of barbershop style. It's a shift in the chord that's caused by 1 or more parts moving or sliding to a different note on the same word or syllable against a melody note that is held. And sometimes the slide is called a gliss or glissando. And I just want to show you that in the opening line of Tomorrow's Another Day, there's a reason this is our theme song. There are 2 swipes in the opening line. We have 3 words, tomorrow's another day. And in just the space of those 3 words, 4 measures, we have 2 swipes. One's a simple swipe, tomorrow, and the basses go, mo's, right? The basses have a swipe down, another day. And here's a double swipe, day, up here, and the basses are doing their swipe down there, and the berries have their swipe. Okay, why is it important to be aware of swipes? Because as the chord shifts around the melody, the note adjustments might have to be made. And this goes with the coning we talked about before. So for example, in the second swipe, the baritones start off here. You see this, they're on an F, and the leads are on a D. So are they above the leads or below the leads? They're above the leads, right? The baritones are singing above the leads. But at the end of the swipe, the baritones are singing a C. And now they're below the leads, but just below the leads. They're rubbing up against the leads. So they're going to need to be stronger and fuller on that note. There might even need to be slight adjustments, not just in the quality, light or stronger, but also in pitch, because sometimes as the chord shifts, the held note will adopt a new position within the new chord. It might be the root of one chord, but it might be the 3rd note in the chord that when it changes, and then you might need to adjust your pitch to sing it properly within that new chord. So that's why it's kind of important. Let's look at another hallmark feature or embellishment of barbershop music. So this is number 10, Kate, our next musical element, and this is patter. In a barbershop arrangement, what is patter? The sound made by one little foot running, the sound of rain, the state of being more pat, or a rapid musical line with many words sung by harmony parts against a more sustained melodic line. The votes are pouring in. No illegal ballots, please. Okay, good. Great. So you can share the results and see that folks picked the last one. Patter is like a counter melody. You can think of it as a counter melody.
Peter, could you help me a minute?
Oops. Peter, you might want to help her mute. So it's like a counter melody with many words that are sung against a part or parts that either have a sustained melodic line or just have fewer words. Now, we don't sing patter songs because we strive for a wall of sound. We want to have a constant stream of tone. And patter songs, which you might be familiar with, are very choppy, staccato. They're a very choppy kind of singing. And so we wouldn't do an entire patter song in barbershop at all. So some of you might be familiar with patter songs. They became very popular in the 18th century in comic operas. Mozart has a tongue-twisting patter song in The Marriage of Figaro. They usually figure tongue-twisting lyrics with all sorts of interesting and fun rhymes. The real masters of the patter song were the pair who created many light operas, who were, Wendy's nodding, Gilbert and Sullivan, right? A line from the most famous patter song, but still in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, I am the very model of a modern major general, right? The Pirates of Penzance is another, that's one that song comes from, but there are others as well. I'm going to just share this one. I happen to love the fact that this one kind of makes fun of itself. The words here are going to be, this particularly rapid, unintelligible patter isn't generally heard, and if it is, it doesn't matter. Here we go.
This particularly rapid, unintelligible patter isn't generally heard, and if it is, it doesn't matter. 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 This particularly rapid, unintelligible patter isn't generally heard, and if it is, it doesn't matter.
So there you go. So we don't do quite that, but we do borrow this. We don't sing patter songs because we don't like choppiness, but we employ the technique of patter here and there for embellishment. And when we employ it, we adapt it to our art form by having at least one part hold or sing a slower set of words against it so that the wall of sound isn't lost. A patter isn't an echo. In an echo, one or more parts will repeat the last word or words that have just been sung. It's a true counterpart with its own set of words against another set of words. And I'm going to share this one example, and then we'll have our final term, which everybody will know.
4 minutes left.
Yeah, all right. So let me just share this. This is a song called Give Me a Barbershop Song. I'm going to play these few lines from it. You'll hear them. They start off singing in, it's not a great recording because it's from a concert without any special, mics, but you'll hear that they start off singing together. You'll hear an echo. They're gonna, don't even stop. If a teardrop fills my eye, there'll be an echo, fills my eye. There isn't a better way to make my day seem fine than humming and singing a good old barbershop song. On song, we'll hear a swipe. Then we'll hear an echo, a barbershop song, and then listen for the patter. The lead will have a patter. Give me a song, an old barbershop song that I can, and the other parts are all going to sing, give me songs too. And then they all sing when I am blue. The lead will patter again, croon me a tune that will soon take my worries away, while the other parts sing tunes to take my, and then when the leads hit away, the bass gets a patter, tunes to take my cares away and bring me back my sunny day. So let's listen to this. Swipe, patter, second patter, I hope you could hear that, the way they traded the patter off and on. And notice that each line makes sense. Give me a song, an old barbershop song that I can sing when I am blue. The harmony part makes sense though. Give me songs to sing when I am blue. So there are counterparts and counter melodies. So the last term, which will just take us out on our last 2 minutes, if you could launch it. And that's a tag. How would you define a tag? A popular child's game, the small label on an article of clothing that inevitably sticks out during every important event in your life, combined with hash, a way to do something mysterious using social media, or the end of a song. There we go. The votes are racking in. Whoa, we're getting up to 80 votes already or more. We can publish that, I think. It is definitely, oh, so somebody went for the label on the back of the clothing. Yeah, and the child's game. Yes, so it is the end of the song, and it's an end of a song added to the original end of a song as a final flourish, but it's so much more than that. And I want to read the definition that I took from the Barbershop Harmony Society website. Tags are characterized by a heightening of the dramatic tension of the song, frequently including a hanger or posted held note. In addition, good tags can be sung as short standalone works, as we all know. Tags may be soft and tender, but are typically characterized by loud, paint peeling, ringing chords. According to the competition rules of the Barbershop Harmony Society, every song entered for a competition must have a tag. And when barbershoppers get together, even if they've never met before, it's common for them to get into groups of 4 or more and to sing a few tags. And those that don't know the tag being sung can be easily taught by those that do. It's fun and creates camaraderie. You can find thousands of tags for free on the Barbershop Harmony Society website. And I will just close by playing this tag from the Melodiers. I Can't Help Falling in Love with You is the song.
Excellent.
Start soft. Whoops, what happened? I hope you heard that note because that was an overtone. Anyway, thank you, folks. It was really fun to share some of these.
Thank you so much, Christine. Great class. We learned a lot.
Thank
Thanks,
Christine.